today's yarn, we will be using Red Heart with Love, and the color we are using today is called Winter Green. And for today's other color, we will be using this Red Heart with Love. It doesn't have a wrapper on it, but you know, after you become addicted so much to yarn, you can pretty much just tell what the name is. So this color is called Bubblegum, and this is from the Red Heart with Love collection. For today's project, you will need some stitch markers, and you will also need some scissors. I'm going to be using these Fiskars. These are my favorite. And for today's hook, I will be using the Crochet Light, and this is a G 4.5 millimeter crochet hook. This one's really cool. I don't know if you guys have seen these, but these have been around for a while, since I've been crocheting at least, and they light up. So let me turn off my light so I can show you what it does. See? It's really cool. You could crochet in the dark while the husband's sleeping. We are going to start off with a slip knot. And I'm going to put my hook through that slip knot. To begin, I am going to chain 40, and you want to do this semi-loosely. You don't want to do this tight nor really loosely. Tension is very important, especially when you're working around the yoke of the neck. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 37, 38, 39, and 40. We now have our chain of 40. Now if your dog has a bigger neck, what you want to do is chain multiples of, I would say 2. So you want to do this in an even number. So if you have a bigger, smaller dog, for instance, if you have a Jack Russell Terrier or a bigger Terrier mix, I would say just make a chain with the even number and try this around their neck to see if it fits. Now what you want to do is slip stitch your work into a circle, and I got this question the other day. Somebody had asked me and said, how do you prevent your chain from twisting? Now I did reply back to that message, and I said what you have to do is pretty much just straighten out the chain and then just slip stitch, and it probably seems easier said than done, so I'm just going to show you real quick what I do. So all I do is just take my chain and then I just straighten that out, and then what I do is I take it and slip stitch it to the very first chain, yarn over and pull through. And what I like to do is I like to secure it with my thumb, and then that's what you have is your untwisted chain. For round 1, you want to chain up 1. Now want to single crochet once all the way around into every chain. Starting with the very first stitch we are currently in, we want to put 1 single crochet into that stitch. And what I'm going to do is work this straggler, and I'm going to put it behind the stitches and single crochet over them, so then that way we don't have to tuck that in later. If it's anything that annoys me is things you have to tuck in later. That's like every crocheter's pet peeve, huh? I know it's mine. So what we're going to do is just continue this all the way around, just putting 1 single crochet all the way around, and you should have 40 single crochets all the way around, unless you are doing this for a bigger, smaller dog. Whatever fits your pet. And there we have it. There is my very last single crochet right there, and this is what your work should be looking like so far. We are now going to slip stitch to join to the very first single crochet, and that is the end of round 1. To begin round 2, we are going to chain up 4, and this is going to count as a double crochet and a chain 1. We then want to put 1 double crochet into the same stitch. You then want to skip 2 single crochets, there's 1 and 2, and jump to the very third one. And you want to put a double crochet, a chain 1, and then put another double crochet. Put another double crochet into the same stitch. Sorry about that, that's my son. So we are going to now skip 2 single crochets and then jump to the third one after, and we're going to put a V-stitch, which is what I'm going to refer to the stitch as. It's going to be a double crochet, a chain 1, and another double crochet into the same stitch, all in one. So I'm not going to say a double crochet, a chain 1, and a double crochet anymore. We're just going to say V-stitch now. So the V-stitch again is double crochet, chain 1, and another double crochet. If you have a hard time remembering, I will put this in the description box below. Skip 2 stitches and then put another V-stitch into the third stitch after that. Skip 2 stitches and then into the third stitch put a V-stitch. Okay, so we are just going to repeat this all the way around, repeating a V-stitch, skip 2 stitches, and then V-stitch, skip 2 stitches, and so on and so forth. So just alternate this all the way around, and I will be back as soon as we come to the end. Okay, so I've came to the very last stitch, and I just wanted to note that in the end you will have 3 stitches left. You will skip the next 2, and then the very last stitch will be a V-stitch. Okay, so we should have 14 sets of V-stitches all the way around. And we just want to close up this round by slip stitching through the middle to the very first chain 4 right there. Just slip stitch that through. For round 3, you're going to chain up 4. Again, this is a double crochet plus a chain 1. We then want to put 1 double crochet into the same stitch. So we are going to be repeating what we did round 2, which is just put a V-stitch all the way around, and between every chain 1 you're just going to work your V-stitch. So you're just working between the double crochets. So I'm going to continue this off camera, just working 1 V-stitch into every V-stitch cluster, and I will be back as soon as I come to the end. So this is what your work should be looking like so far. I've come all the way around, and we are just going to slip stitch 2 in between this chain 4 and close up that round. For round 4, we are going to be increasing. We are going to start off as normal and as usual for round 4, and we are going to chain up 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Put another double crochet into the same stitch. And into this next stitch, we are going to be putting 2 sets of 2 V-stitches. To do this, we are going to work as if it were a normal V-stitch. We will then scoot that over and then put an additional V-stitch inside that stitch, all into one. So we should have 4 double crochets and 2 chain ones. Okay. We will then move on to the next stitch and put a regular and normal V-stitch. Into the next stitch, we will put 2 V-stitches, which is going to be the increase again. Scoot that over a little bit. There's our increase. Move to this very next stitch with a normal V-stitch. And into this next stitch, put a V-stitch increase, which is a regular V-stitch. And then put another V-stitch inside there. So when I say V-stitch increase, you will now know it's just 2 V-stitches into 1 stitch. So don't have to keep repeating this. And again, this information will be in the description box as well. In this next stitch, we will put a normal V-stitch. And then the next stitch after, of course, will be our V-stitch increase. So you guys pretty much get it. It's just alternating, you know, a regular normal V-stitch and then putting an increase into the next stitch after, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to continue this off camera and I will be back as soon as I come to the end. So we've come to the end of the round and you should end with an increase. We now want to close up this round with a slip stitch as normal. To move on to round 5, we are going to chain up 4. That's a double crochet and a chain 1 as usual. Now we want to put a double crochet into that same stitch to begin with. This round is pretty easy because all we are doing is just evening out what we did the previous row because we increase. So now we want to make our work a little bit wider. So go ahead and put 1 V-stitch all the way around into every V-stitch. And this can be very tricky for those who are new to doing these kind of increases because we have this right here. Do not mistake this for an increase right here because there is a space because there's 1 V-stitch and then there's another V-stitch right here. So make sure you are working to the right of this shell right here. So as you can see, our work is starting to even out. And then go in there normally because we have a normal V-stitch right there. And then there's that V-stitch right there. And if I'm moving too fast for some of you guys, please feel free to pause and play as needed. And then I know that some people move a little bit slower than others, but these are just pretty much the basics, which is why I work a little bit quicker because it's just double crochets and chains. And I will have a pattern for download for you guys so you guys can work this off camera if you guys would like and print it for on the go. And I would very much appreciate a like on this video and a subscribe from you guys if you guys haven't, just to show appreciation for patterns that are free. Okay, so I'm just going to leave you guys to it to just repeat a 1 V-stitch all the way around between every V-stitch. Okay, and that's all we are doing for this round. And we are on round 5. Okay, so I've come to the end, and you want to have 21 V-stitches all the way around. And to move on to round 6, we are going to slip stitch again to close up this round. Now for round 6, we are going to be working on the armholes. And to work on the armholes is going to be very tricky, especially if you're making this for a bigger size small dog. So it's really your judgment on when you want to make the armholes. You could put a little bit more rounds of the V-stitches and then decide to do the arms, and just decide where your guys' pet's arms should be placed. And you can just try this around the neck and see exactly where the armholes should be placed. So we are going to chain out 4, and then we are going to put 1 double crochet into the same stitch. We will then chain up 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And you might want to do this a little bit on the loose side because you don't want it to be too tight around your pet's arms. We are going to skip a total of 2 V-stitches, so skip 1 and 2, and then join to the very 3rd V-stitch. It's actually going to be the 4th stitch if you count from the very first stitch that we did, and you're going to join with a V-stitch. So we can take a look at what we did before I move on. So we have our very first V-stitch. We skipped 1 and 2 V-stitches, chained up 6 right here, and then what we did was join with a V-stitch to the very 4th stitch. Alright, so we are going to put 1 V-stitch into the next 13 stitches. Okay, so we are now going to chain up 6, skip 2 V-stitches right here, yarn over, and you are going to work a V-stitch to join. Okay, and there are your little armholes. And then you're going to end this round with a slip stitch, of course. And this is what our work looks like so far. For round 7, chain up 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you want to put 1 double crochet into the same stitch. Now we are going to work this very differently. We are not going to be doing and skipping 2 chains. You want to skip 1 chain, and into the 2nd chain put a V-stitch. What's wrong, baby? After that, you want to skip this next chain, and into this chain right here you are going to put a V-stitch. You then want to skip these chains and jump straight to this V-stitch right here, and then put a V-stitch inside there. Okay, so we've come to the last V-stitch before the chain right here. Now what we want to do is skip this first chain and jump to the 2nd chain, and we are going to put our V-stitch there. And right here is where we are going to skip these next 2 chains and jump to this 3rd one right here. And and I am going to put my V-stitch there. So yes, this is very different from the other side where we did skip one chain and then put a V-stitch, and on this side it is different because of the placement. So for placement reasons, I did make the pattern a little bit different than the other side. So I just wanted to note that to you guys because it is very crucial and very important for placement. So we are going to put a V-stitch into our last V-stitch. And we are going to end this round with a slip stitch to close it. Okay, so from round 7 all the way until round 14, we are going to repeat this, just putting one V-stitch all the way around. You're going to chain up 4 in the beginning, put another additional double crochet into that same stitch, and you are going to put one V-stitch into every V-stitch all the way around. And then of course when you get to the end, you'll slip stitch to close it and then move on. Now before I go ahead and continue to work my rounds, I just ended round 7. I just wanted to mention that here on and throughout you should have 21 V-stitches all the way around. So from round 7 all the way until 14, you should be back at 21 V-stitches unless you are making this again for a bigger, smaller dog. Okay? So it's what makes sense to you guys. So I'm going to continue this, just putting the chain 4, 1 double crochet into the same stitch, and then put a V-stitch all the way around until we get to the end of round 14. Okay guys, so this is what our work should be looking like so far. We're moving on to round 15, and round 15 we are just going to chain up 2. And this round we are just going to be half double crocheting around our work. So this chain 2 will count as a half double crochet, and into this next stitch we will be putting a half double crochet right here. So put a half double crochet here, then put a half double crochet into the next stitch, and then a half double crochet right here into that next stitch, then half double crochet right there, and then jump to this stitch right here. We are not putting a half double into the middle or in its chains at all, just between these double crochets. We're just putting one half double crochet. Okay, so we're going to continue this all the way around, putting one half double crochet. Okay, so we have come to the end of the round, and what we want to do is slip stitch to the very first and the top stitch of that chain 2. And then we want to chain 1 and then finish off our work. And this is what our top looks like. I really love this. This stitch kind of reminds me of a thermal stitch and sort of like a honeycomb stitch. I love the texture on it. It's super soft. Now this is where we grab our stitch markers, and I'm going to use pink today because I'm kind of out of my blues. So you're going to mark exactly where you want the beginning of your dress to start. And for my dress, I am going to do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to do it 10 stitches down from the chain 3. Let me zoom in here so you guys can see. So what I did was I placed it 9 stitches away from the chain 3. That makes it 10. So if you count the chain 2, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then the 10th stitch. And then to your right from the chain 2, you will count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stitches down. So that will make it even. That'll make it 10. So if you count the chain 2, it'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. So make sure that you have your stitch markers placed correctly. So we are now taking our winter green. Again, this is from Red Heart with Love. And I'm just going to attach my yarn to my beginning stitch marker, which is that 10th stitch all the way to the left. Whoops. So you can use any method that you like. What I like to do is sometimes tie a knot, or even sometimes start with a slip knot and then put it onto my hook, and then take the stitch marker out now that I know the placement, and then take the straggler, hold it with my thumb, and then what I like to do is slip stitch that through. Okay, and then what I am going to do is chain up 3. Okay, and then I like to take the straggler and put it behind my work, so then that way I could tuck in the straggler along the way. Now what I'm going to do is put 3 more double crochets into this same stitch. So this chain 3 counts as a double crochet. So there's 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to put 1 more for our 4th stitch. Chain 1, and then we are going to skip 1 stitch, and then into the next stitch we will put 4 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Chain 1, skip 1, and then into the next one after put 4 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Chain 1, skip 1, 3, and 4. Skip 1, and into the stitch after that put 4 double crochets. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Chain 1, skip 1, and into the stitch after that put 4 double crochets, and then a chain 1, and then repeat that until you get to your very last stitch marker. Okay, so we're at the last stitch we have, and we are going to skip this stitch, of course, and then into this last stitch we will put our 4 double crochets. You are going to chain up 3, and you are going to turn your work. Now here's where it gets different. We are going to not consider this chain 3 as a double crochet, so we want to put our very first double crochet into where that chain 3 is, because when we single crochet around we don't want gaps in our work, so for those purposes that's not going to count. And we are going to just put 1 double crochet into each and every double crochet. Okay, so it actually looks like we have 5 double crochets, but we don't. We only have 4. Right here where this gap is, you want to make sure that you put a chain 1, just so we kind of keep this going. After you chain 1, you're going to go about your business and put 1 double crochet into each double crochet. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then remember, we want to keep this going, so chain 1. So we're basically working the same thing just into each and every stitch, and then when a chain 1 space comes, you want to make sure that you put a chain 1 before you start the new 4 double crochet group. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then chain 1, and then continue to put 1 double crochet into each double crochet, and then where there's a chain space right here is where you want to put your chain 1. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then chain 1 after your last 4th double crochet. So I'm going to continue to do this until I get to my very last stitch. Okay, so as soon as I get to my last stitch, I will let you know what to do next. Okay, so we've came to the very last stitch, which is going to be this chain 3, and I know that I said that the chain 3 is not going to count, but for the very first row the chain 3 will, but from here on in throughout it will not count anymore. Okay, so make sure you work your very last double crochet into that stitch right there, okay, the chain 3. So we're just going to repeat this for every row and make it as long as you want. My dress has 8 rows. So if you want to do 8 rows, that's fine. If you want to do 10, that's fine. 12, it does not matter. Make the dress as long as you want. It's really easy. All we got to do is just chain up 3. Okay, and this is row 3 that I am working on. And make sure you put your double crochet into the same stitch. And just continue to put 1 double crochet into every double crochet, and then when that comes, of course, do your chain 1 and then work across again into every double crochet, chain 1, and then go about your business. So you're just going to repeat this every row, back and forth, and it just depends on the length of the dog. So if you have a longer dog, let's say you have a weenie dog, you can make the backing as long as you want. Nobody is going to judge you on making it shorter or longer. It just depends, and it's a matter of preference on what you want for your dog as well. So just take it from here, chain 3, double crochet into the very first stitch, double crochet all the way across, chain 1, and just keep putting a double crochet into every stitch. So it just doesn't get any easier than that. So I'm going to continue mine off camera because I don't want to make this video too long when it's just really the simple things that we are doing on camera and that you guys can also do off camera as well. So I will be back as soon as I get done with mine, and then after that I will be putting 1 single crochet around my dress with the same color, or you can even do the color of the body that you had used. Like I said, this is your guys's matter of preference. It's for your dog, so whatever color you want to use and your heart desires, go ahead and do that. So when you get to row 7, you want to end on a right side, or even if you're making this for and customizing this for your dog, just make sure you're on the right side. And what you want to do is single crochet around all of your work. And like I said, this is a matter of preference. So if you do not want to single crochet around your work, that is completely fine, as this is a matter of preference for you guys. But I am going to even out my work and put a single crochet around my work, and around the corners put 2 single crochets. And I'm working in the chain 3 areas, so then that way my work doesn't look lopsided. It pretty much evens it out. So I'm going to continue this all the way around, just putting 1 single crochet around my whole entire work. Okay, so that's what that looks like so far. Let's just back up here. That's why I like single crocheting around the dress, because it looks really even and it makes it look a lot more neater. So I am going to continue to work around in this fashion, just putting 1 single crochet all the way around, and I will be back as soon as I come to the end and I've tucked in my ends. So there we have it. There is our adorable summer dress, and it is so cute and just so fashionable, and it works up really quickly, and it's got so much texture to it, as you can tell just by looking at it. Super soft, and it's just got lots of good texture. I don't know what it is. It's just really cute. And then what I love about this is you can barely tell where our seam is. It's just so cute.